This is directed towards Ben, but any white person in an interracial relationship could maybe answer. How do you begin to navigate and begin to accept the fact that your wife may experience things that you never will experience, or like feel things related to her culture in the States that you will never experience as a white man? How do you go about navigating that? And
someone who grows up white, right here. How often do you think about that? She hasn't been here. She's never lived here, right?
Correct. She's never been here into the U.S.
So she has no idea what she's gonna experience. How much are you thinking about that? Hang on. Before we get to the answer to that question, I want to say, if you enjoy the conversation and what students have to say, please consider hitting the like button, because it supports the algorithm, and then more people will have the opportunity to experience the class. And if you're new to the channel and you're enjoying what you're seeing here, please consider subscribing and turn on the bell notification so you know when we go live.
Constantly, because it's always, what am I missing and what is their culture shock going to be? You can ask everybody. You can ask the Chinese visa students. You can ask other Asian students.
You can watch YouTube videos.
Exactly. And you can just like get as much information as you can. But there's always that one little thing that you never found that she's going to judge you on.
Yeah.
But
or that you just won't see.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It'll be so minute, so small. You'll be like, what?
But can be really big.
Yes.
That's the nature of it.
In any relationship, it is always communicate. They're your other half, and you're their other half. So if you can break it down to simple things like finances, lifestyle choices, and get on an equal footing of some understanding, you have a good basis to work off of, and then it's communicate from there. I can't read your mind. You can't read mine.
Yeah, but here, I just want to say something. It's not equal footing, because this is the nature of these cross-cultural engagements. It's different footing. It can never be equal. And as much as you want it to be, I hear what you're saying.
I think I said it wrong, but like, on an equal understanding. Like, we understand this is all.
No, I got you.
Yeah,
but that's the nature of it. That's part of why these relationships and connections and families become so difficult, because you think it's going to be easier than it is, and it's not, man. It's just so incredibly difficult, Yeah.
Did that answer your question?
Kind of. I guess I asked it in an attempt to tie it into the language conversation that we were having previously. Just because the way we were talking about it, I heard a lot of like, she doesn't believe her English is good enough, but it is good enough. It's a fact that it won't really be good enough here, because coming as an immigrant, speaking a certain language, needing to learn English, there's always going to be an expectation of, it could be better. You could say this better. You could express yourself better. And people may not know how smart someone is in their own language because they don't speak English very well. So does that make sense? I was kind of thinking of it in relation to the language.
There's other ways to get that information from your significant other. It's not only the language, it's how they act, how they do math, how they make choices and decisions. Language isn't the only thing you have. You have the five senses, and then personalities.
And so what I would say is like, but that's life. If you move from Florida, from California to Florida or whatever, that's the nature of life. And you have the up and the down, the good and the bad. But it is something that you're going to think about. Like you're going to think about as much as you've been thinking about it. How's your Spanish, by the way?
It was really good. Stopped speaking it for a while, and it's getting better now with us raising our son. We're making him speak Spanish first, and then English. So it's getting better. It's mostly like the Mexican Spanish, like the small little differences and little verbiages.
Yeah. By the way, the more pushing Spanish on your son more than English, a lot of immigrants have this idea that that's a bad idea because they won't learn English good enough. It's like the exact opposite, man. Force the English, because force the Spanish or force the other language, because they're going to learn English fluent. They're going to speak without an accent. They're going to speak fluently. Hey, if you want to watch the full lecture, the link to the playlist and the lecture is in the description. So just check it out. In fact, there's a lot of useful information that's connected to the class in the video description, including when we go live. And we do go live every Tuesday and Thursday during the semester and Wednesday afternoons throughout the year. Okay, let's get back to the class.
I think many of us face it as international students of wanting to confine your personality to feel connected with the people. Or like when you're coming to America, you said when you go to Korea, you confine yourself or your personality, you hold yourself limited. And I want to know, what are your thoughts on that? Should we be doing that, or should we be allowing our cultures to clash? Is there a benefit in letting that happen?
Yo, man, that's a really good question. I'm going to answer that question after I give it to Rayanne first.
I think it depends on how okay a person is with confrontation. If you're willing to, if you want to get along with a bigger crowd, then you're going to want to confine yourself to a certain personality that the entire crowd is going to like. But if you want to find your people, then I think it's okay to let that clash happen, so long as you're willing to defend it calmly and respectfully. I'd say if you're a tourist in certain cultures, then read up on the cultures and just don't be a because like you don't have to, you know, you learn certain words, learn how to say please, thank you, learn like manners. I think manners is really important, and be respectful. But so long as you're being respectful, I don't think there's any issue with clash, because clash can allow people to make proper connections.
So my question might be more for Christian, but if anyone else can answer it, that's fine too. I'm also a first generation Dominican American, so I kind of have some similar like ways of living experiences that you have. But is there anything in particular, specific instances that you noticed growing up that kind of affected you that were different from your, like the American culture versus your Filipino culture? And an example of this would be like for me, when I was younger, like my mom was so go, 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 always working and everything. So I already knew not to expect her like at trips or like at sports events. Whereas that in American culture is so big, and you see parents always showing up for their kids at trips, at sports, but that's not really something that was as big in my culture. And that kind of sometimes made me feel like, oh, like maybe my mom should be doing this, but I know she can't. Like, do you have any experiences or like even where you see that translate into your adult life?
My father always worked long hours, and he was always working hard to provide for our family. And so a lot of myself kind of didn't like see that as a kid. And so growing up, it was like a big clash for me. And kind of now that I'm like at that age now where I'm becoming an adult, I really hate to say it, but he was right. I just didn't see it because I wasn't old enough. And now that I'm there, it's like, wow, like I get that he didn't maybe provide for me as much emotionally, like being there physically. Sometimes he tried, like he was there, like a lot of the times, but sometimes he wasn't. But like he was there to provide. He provided for our family.
Dude, it's intense, man. This is like this is one of the immigration story everywhere in the world. It's the immigration story.
How do you feel about Americanized versions of like your cultures outside of America?
In not Osaka, Okinawa, Japan, there's a little town called American Town just outside of Kadena Air Force Base.
Wait, it's called America Town?
Yes.
Yeah.
It is what the Japanese people think America is like. It is the craziest thing, and it's fantastic. If that happened here, it would be cultural appropriation. And it's so fun to be on the like mimicked side, and it's like, oh, this is great.
And is it on point?
No.
No. Yeah. Okay, well, here's a good question then from Kenji from KC, Kansas City. Like, when cultures clash, so how do we distinguish between genuine cultural preservation and resistance to social change?
My wife and I, we before having our son, we talked a lot about like what pieces of each one of our cultures we'd kind of like be willing to implement into the child. And sounds like an object when I say it like that.
No, that's all right. Wait, aren't you an engineer?
No, I'm a physics major.
Oh, okay. Well, that's perfect for a physics major.
Yeah.
Go for it. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, we kind of like picked and choose like eat like individual pieces. And I don't know, at the end of the day, I just feel like it's kind of like up to you. If you feel like you're giving up a piece of yourself, then it's probably not the part that you want to give away. But if you feel like, hey, like this is actually like me fitting in more or like going into the norm, maybe that is the way to go. So it's kind of like you have to look at each individual situation, each part as its own thing that you need to assess.
So the two of you probably experienced that. There are certain parts of your families where you're like, I'm going to take this on. I'm going to have to adapt this, and other things that you were able to not make part of you.
Yeah, I guess I like kind of want to add that like I don't necessarily think of it as like my parents are losing their identity on either side. I mean, I'm sure like with each other there's stuff that they've had to compromise and sacrifice.
Yeah, for sure.
But like I guess like looking at like how like my own relationship could be, I don't think of it necessarily as like I'm losing my identity.
Yeah. No. You're gonna gain no matter what. You're just picking from lots of different pieces. Huh.
Yeah.
But progress. But for your parents, though, here, let me ask you: progress versus loss of identity. So your parents they're going to experience both things. Progress is the more you integrate into a new culture, the more successfully you integrate, the better off you're going to be. But you're going to lose part of your old identity. You become something new, there's nothing wrong with that. But you must see that. To what degree do your parents see that?
I think that my mom really saw that. I think that we kind of all agree that change is inevitable. Like you'll never escape change. And so kind of taking the good with the bad, being able to connect not only with like my own culture, kind of something that I've sort of journeyed with throughout this year, and then also understand that like I am an American.
Do they see you as an American?
Yeah, actually it was...
Do they see you as 100% American? And when you brought your white friends over to your house, to what degree is that an example of, hey, we've succeeded because our son Christian has integrated into America, into the U.S.?
I think
not just white friends, but American friends who are not Filipino.
I think they're very proud of that, because I get to, like, they just love to see that I'm happy. They love to see that I can enjoy my life. And like it gets sort of weird now when you think about like me having like a girlfriend and things like that, and then going over to her side and being able to like experience her culture as well, which is also like more
a girlfriend who's not Filipino.
Yeah. Now that's even deeper because she's actually adopted Chinese into a white family. So then you got like the complexities of there, like both of us kind of struggling with our like cultural identities and kind of trying to find like connect back with our culture, but also like maintain being American.
Oh, dude, they get someone from China who's not Chinese. Like, life. Do mixed race people feel a lack of belonging?
My answer is this is a lot to fit into a few minutes of class.
Yeah, go ahead.
I absolutely hated being from two different places as a kid, especially living in a country where I wasn't living in either of the places that I was from. So that was a new culture to adopt. And then also figuring out what I was, because it was frequently, to the Arabs, I was the American, and to the Americans, I was the Arab. So I think just finding that middle ground, and I saw something on the stream earlier, one of the questions about what does identity mean to you, and I think it's just finding that balance of what works for you specifically. So I think I typically, because I can express myself in English a lot better than Arabic, I lean more American, but there's a lot of cultural and like manners and aspects of the Arab world that I've fit into myself.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. It'd be interesting to have this same conversation in an Arab space to see how you would shift.
Yeah.
Dude, hey, round of applause for you guys.